Let's talk about how you can raise your vibration with one simple question. And that simple question is this: imagine how you'd feel if. Imagine how you'd feel if. Now think about it. Imagination is that one creative force that we all possess, but how often do we tap into its power? It is an amazing resource for one main reason. It's like planting seeds. It's like you're the gardener. You say to yourself, if you were to imagine something, even just thinking about it for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds is enough for you to plant that seed in your subconscious mind to start the ball rolling. And your subconscious mind loves when it receives those seeds because it wants to water them, it wants to nourish them, and it wants to see them grow. That's the job of the subconscious mind. It wants to take that which you put into it and make it become a reality. Now, here's the interesting second part to that question. When you say imagine how you'd feel if, the feel part is super important. And the reason why it's important is this. So many times there are things we want in life, but we just don't, it's not a familiar feeling. Whether it's strength, independence, love, there's so many feelings that we want to have, but they sometimes just seem like a distant feeling that we're just not familiar with. It's not something we're known or comfortable with because we haven't experienced it in a while. Well, guess what? That question, imagine how you'd feel if, sparks the imagination, which ignites the emotion. And so what happens is you start to raise your vibration because you're experiencing emotions that you typically don't feel. But when you imagine and ask yourself the right question and imagine how you'd feel if, it kind of takes that barrier to feeling emotions and it lowers it down to make it that much easier for you to feel these emotions and imagine a scenario that ignites them and make those emotions, most importantly, become much more comfortable because they basically become more familiar to you. Imagine how you'd feel if questions also do something super important. They pave the road. What do I mean by that? They're paving the road for that which you imagine to become a reality because you're firing off the exact same neurons that are activated in your imagination that will eventually be activated in reality. So you're paving the road. You're firing and wiring these neurons together to eventually make it a more manageable path for you to go down and for this to become a reality. One of the most powerful secondary effects of raising your vibration is the fact that now you're in a different elevated emotional state. Now, when you're in an elevated emotional state, what happens is the lens that you're looking through in situations and the way that you make decisions has now changed. Because think about it. If you're in a lower vibration state, such as guilt, shame, embarrassment, or just depression, you're going to take actions that align more with that emotional state, that lower vibrational state. And so if you want to align with that which you desire, you got to raise your vibe by raising the emotions. Now, when you do raise your vibe and do raise the emotions, now you're almost like looking through a different lens. You're looking through a lens with maybe a little bit more joy, a little more excitement, a little more anticipation of that which might go right because your emotions are at a higher vibrational energy. And so therefore, they're basically guiding you in a different way than you would otherwise with lower vibration emotions. Let me offer you two examples of imagine how you'd feel if questions. One might be, imagine how you'd feel if there was no such thing as fear of judgment. Now, this question would provoke the listener and the person who you're speaking it to consider the fact that, wow, I can now take chances without being judged. And if I can do that, what are the feelings that I don't put myself at risk to experience? Embarrassment, shame, humiliation. Those are the things that would free us to just take some chances, take some risks, and do some things we might not otherwise do. So think about the power behind that simple question. It really invites you to start thinking about things differently. And the emotion you have is that of hope and that of excitement. Now, once you do that, you have raised your vibration. And at that point, you're just taking that one little action that just makes raising your emotional level, raising your vibe, raising your frequency, raising your energy up just a little bit, even if it's just for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, that little hit just starts to become more of a habit. And then if you imagine something once and your body kind of gets a pleasurable response from it, now you start to run into the thought of possibly creating a habit with this, because the body loves dopamine. We know that we do a lot of things for that dopamine hit, that rush, that feel-good chemical we all have inside of us. Now, if you imagine something that provokes that raising of your vibration and that elevation of your emotions, what you've basically done is kind of done a little feel-good exercise for your body. And your body and your mind are certainly going to want to have that happen again. There was an interesting study done years ago where they took people that were depressed and they showed them a set of multiple slides. Half of the slides, now mind you, it was exactly half. Half of the slides had photos of different funerals. The other half of the slides had photos of different weddings. Now, when someone in that lower vibrational state of depression watched a series of these equally evened out clips, what they were asked a day later is, were there more photos of funerals or more photos of weddings? Well, you can probably imagine that they chose funerals. So they did that because they were in that lower vibrational state. And one could argue that if you're in a higher vibrational state, you would also argue that would it not be the opposite? Would you say, wow, I saw more weddings than funeral shots? Now, when you ask yourself, what does this mean to me? Well, it means a lot. It's because we basically are aware that the lens that we're looking through in our life is so critical. The lens that if we look through the lens of the world is a horrible place, all our thoughts, feelings, and actions are going to align and they're going to get filtered through that lens. So we've got to raise our vibration, because if we don't, there's too heavy of a price to pay. And that price to pay is we're now looking through a lens that is not serving us well. You know, I even have this pair of sunglasses that just brightens everything up. If there's an orange, it makes it a vibrant orange. If there's a yellow, it makes it a really bright yellow. And I'll tell you, the difference even just when I didn't even realize it, but I went on a walk one time and I actually had these glasses on and I had gone for that same walk, I think it was 2 or 3 days earlier. So the leaves on the trees hadn't changed much. Now this is fall. And I just remember having the glasses on. I'm like, wow, like it's really nicer than I thought out. You know, like this is a really great day. I didn't even realize that I was looking through a lens that when I lifted those sunglasses up, it completely was increasing the vibrance of all the colors I saw. And it actually did have an effect on my mood. Now that was an experiment I didn't know I was a part of, but you get the point. So we definitely want to take a look at that vibrational state we're in, because we got to know the value of what it's offering us or taking away from us. Well, let's see. My light behind me is starting to die. The other light already died. I guess I did too many retakes. But anyways, we're going to run with this because you know what? Perfection is not possible. And as the lights diminish behind me, the 2 lights to my left and right are still shining bright. So I guess I've raised my vibration enough so that nothing is going to pull me down or stop me from finishing this video. So anyways, I would love to hear your thoughts. Share them below. And if you have any questions, would love to get a conversation going about this topic. I really feel that the power of imagination and emotions is one that we can all manage and tap into more frequently and more often to have a greater change and a greater impact positively on our lives. So thank you so much for your time. I thank you very, very much. And if you're interested, I got a video over here. I got one over here. And if you want to check those out, they're both good. And guess what? The lights work good in both of these videos. Not like the one I didn't charge behind me. Thanks so much.